What's really happening with price tags? Let's run it. I think this is referring to the Walmart digital price tags, but we'll see.
This apple and this apple are the exact same, except for one thing. I only paid $1.29 for this apple, but for this one, you paid nearly 3 times that. Not because yours is any better, it's not organic, and I didn't get mine on sale. These are exactly the same, but the algorithm decided that you would pay more than me. Let me explain.
Listen, folks, your milk might start having a rush hour price to it.
These price tags started updating right
They're doing that. I feel like they do that shit anyways, even before shit got digital. Like when the holidays came around and they would do like Black Friday sales, there was no sales. Let's say a TV was $100 anyways, and then they would fucking just remake a new sign that said, oh, this TV was $150, now it's $100, even though the price didn't change, but they're just saying it changed. And there was like Walmart employees that exposed that shit.
Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Vanderbilt. What do they all have in common? They owned monopolies. Carnegie was the king of steel, Rockefeller was the king of oil, and Vanderbilt was the king of railroads. These guys focused all of their time and money on one thing, and that was dominating their industries. As their businesses grew, they were able to effectively crush any competition and choose whatever price they wanted to charge. And they were pretty much untouchable. But in 1890, a senator from Ohio formed a bill that would allow the government to step in. This bill, also known as the Sherman Act, only had 2 sections. Section 1 made price fixing illegal, and Section 2 made it a crime to monopolize or attempt to monopolize an industry. As you can imagine, when the government passes a law that goes against the richest people in the country, they usually find creative ways around it. So in 1914, the government had to pass the Clayton Act, which was specifically made to ban practices like price discrimination and exclusive dealing agreements. It also created the Federal Trade Commission to enforce all those rules. But even with the FTC and the Sherman Act today, things aren't really working like they should.
A fancy way of saying your groceries are going to start acting like airline tickets.
So let's play a game to really understand what
Like airline tickets, spring break time, they'll jack that shit up.
we're dealing with. Here
I just think doing that with groceries and like shit you need to survive is fucked.
we have 2 grocery stores, Dave's and Willie's. To keep things simple, let's pretend they each sell the same thing. Both stores sell their apples for $3 a piece. Customers don't really have a preference, so they just shop wherever their heart desires. But Dave decides that he wants to make a little bit more money, so he lowers his price to $2.50. For the next week, the majority of customers start shopping at Dave's for their apples because they're cheaper. But as soon as Willie catches on to this, he lowers his price to $1.99. Again, all the shoppers follow the lower price and move back to Willie's. As you can imagine, this could just continue indefinitely, and that's why it's called a race to the bottom. This is the ideal scenario for us because companies are forced to compete for the lowest price to attract the most customers.
People are like, oh, $9 coffee from Starbucks, and that's fucked. And I think that fucking CEO is an asshole and out of touch. But it's like, if you don't buy that and people stop going there, they will be forced to lower the price.
However, after all this back and forth, both Willie and Dave are now making way less than they did when both of their prices were $3. If they could get together and create a plan, they could both raise their price to $5 and make way more because customers have nowhere else to go for their apples. But that would be considered collusion, and that's illegal according to the Sherman Act. But is it illegal if it's not humans doing the collusion and instead it's the algorithm? And what if the algorithm didn't just know what everyone else was charging, but it also knew everything about you?
Oh, it's like an AI thing? Bro, that's why I'm saying there should be restrictions on AI. I mean, that's just one example, but there's like so many.
We're gonna get to that, but
like AI, bro. Motherfuckers be, I think that's why the job market, part of the reason why the job market's so fucked, motherfuckers be trying to apply for jobs and shit. It's not even humans reading your resumes, it's just like AI.
It's a simple concept most of us learned in school. Here you have a line showing the supply, and here is the demand. The point where these lines cross is the optimal price an object should be. As the demand goes up, the price goes up. As the demand goes down, the price goes down. This used to be the main way of pricing goods, but ever since we started carrying these around, things have changed. Airplane tickets were some of the first things most of us noticed. Depending on what time of year you were buying them or when the trip was planned for, it might be more expensive or
yeah, it's like I'm looking to go on vacation, and when I was looking at Airbnbs and flights and shit, from looking at it from June to September, the price literally dropped in half.
This is what's called dynamic pricing. It's the reason Ubers cost more during rush hour and why flights cost more during spring break. Dynamic prices are set by non-customer specific variables. These are things that are determined without any customer data, but as we've started to open our lives up more and more to data collection, we've pretty much opened Pandora's box and allowed companies to take complete control of our spending. If we return back to the Sherman Act, you'll remember that price collusion is considered illegal. For something to be considered collusion, there needs to be an agreement to fix prices between multiple parties. But that agreement doesn't need to be said, written, or even directly agreed on. It could be something as simple as a wink. For example, if Dave and Willie, our grocery store owners, are out golfing one day and Dave says, "Man, the price on these apples is way too low." Then they both go and raise the prices the next day. That's considered illegal collusion. In other words, you don't need a direct agreement at all. You just need to prove that they are no longer acting independently. That leads us to the problem we're having today. And in order to explain this, I think we need to order some groceries. Instacart has been getting some heat lately. In a recent investigation, Consumer Reports found that grocery store prices were completely different for each customer, sometimes as much as 23%. And most of us know
I mean, you're just paying for convenience. It's like DoorDash, bro. It's obviously going to be more expensive.
Instacart because of their app and being able to simply order our groceries instead of walking around the aisles of a grocery store, but they are also the leading software that grocery stores rely on. I mean, just think about it. Instacart had over 250 million orders in the first 3 quarters of 2025 alone. That's hundreds of millions of data points that they can compile and sell to the grocery store to improve their efficiency. Because it's a digital storefront, there aren't any price tags and they can update things in real time. They even acquire.
So Instacart changes the price? I thought it was like DoorDash where you order a burger, let's say it's $15, right? But you're paying that $15, but then you're going to pay for the DoorDash fees and tip and shit. It's not changing the actual price of the item.
Eversight in 2022, which is an AI company designed to optimize pricing, promotions, and discounts. But that optimization isn't for the customers, it's for the stores. According to Instacart, the tools they've built with Eversight can increase grocery store sales by 1 to 3% and profit from additional sales by 2 to 5%. All of this being driven by an algorithm.
And like that sounds small, but at scale, that's millions of dollars.
That is not only testing and updating prices and discounts in real time, but it's also using our information against us. Which brings us back to our previous point on dynamic pricing. If you remember, dynamic pricing is based on non-customer specific variables. But to do what Instacart was doing, you need customer data like where they live and what they do for work, otherwise known as surveillance pricing.
Yeah, that's why like everything in Orange County is going to be more expensive than rural Arkansas. It's that same thing.
It is important to note that as of December 22nd, 2025, Instacart did announce that they are immediately ending all price tests and use of Eversight technology to run those price tests, but they are still allowing tests on promotions and discounts. Now, surveillance pricing really caught on thanks to social media. As we've shared more of our lives online and taught the algorithms what type of things we like to look at and buy, we're giving them the keys to our brains and how we shop. Not just that, but the brands have also found new ways to collect even more data, and they've gotten really good at hiding it from us. All those loyalty programs you belong to, they're not really designed to reward your loyalty with free drinks and fries. Instead, they're just the bait to extract even more information from you. When you download their apps, you're giving up access to things like your location, the purchases you make on your phone, and some apps even include mini games that you'll play for extra points.
That's why I just like anytime anything will pop up, I always just say no. But even that, I feel like it doesn't fucking matter.
But those mini games are actually designed to study your psychological habits to learn even.
Hey, Clash of Clans gems though. I don't sleep on that. I low-key lock in on that shit sometimes.
More about your shopping style. So when you're presented with an ad or you're looking to order your next meal, the app knows exactly what to put in front of you to maximize their profit. And that decision is made by an algorithm. These algorithms are constantly taking in new information and forming opinions on you and what you're willing to spend. And this gets really creepy when you start to think about it, because these brands have built these huge profiles on us. If I lived in Beverly Hills, I used an iPhone, I shop at Whole Foods, I make reservations at nice restaurants, and I typically take 2 to 3 vacations a year, my shopper profile would feed me higher priced goods every time. And I would buy them without a second thought. On the other hand, if I only shopped at discount stores, I'm already saving coupons.
Yeah, it's like, but it's also like any social media app too, to where they'll know you better than you know yourself based off the algorithm. So like, if all you like watching is cat videos, they're gonna show you nothing but cat videos. They're not gonna show you fucking rabbits. You know what I mean? I'm just using examples here, but it's the same thing. They're gonna like each app, every social media, AI, software, whatever it is, wants you to stay on their platform for as long as possible and spend as much time, money, whatever may be on their platform. So they're going to use everything they can, all the data they have about you, to put shit in front of your face that they know that will get you to buy, and if not, tempt you to then later buy down the line.
I never go out on vacation, and I rarely purchase something if it's not on sale. The algorithm will only ever feed me discounted items or lower priced goods, even if the discount was just created as an illusion to get me to buy more. In other words, with surveillance pricing, the price we see is specifically tailored to the way we buy and the price we expect to pay for things. But don't just take my word for it, because this is actually happening around us right now. In 2019, an investigation showed that Target was charging $4.99 for a TV on their app. But when you pulled into a parking lot of one of their stores, the price would increase to $5.99 because the algorithm
They just do that? No fucking way. That's crazy.
assumed you're more likely to purchase if you're already at the store. Also, in 2012, Orbitz was caught pushing
That doesn't even make sense though, because if you're like, oh, I know I'm gonna spend $4.99, and then you go to the store and see it's $5.99, you'd be like, well, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to spend this extra $100.
Mac users to more expensive hotel options than PC users. When you would log
Like, some people might be like, yeah, whatever, I don't give a fuck, but most people would not want to spend that if they had a price in mind that they were already gonna pay.
onto the site with a Mac, the more expensive options would pop up first. The algorithm assumed that if you had a Mac, you were probably in a higher income bracket and could afford it. One study even showed that shoppers selecting fast delivery on baby formula were labeled as rushed parents and were assumed to not be price sensitive. So the algorithm would just bump up the price on baby items.
Oh, yeah, that's... How can they just do that, though? That, like, to me, that's so shitty, bro.
But the problems don't stop with these brands just setting the prices, because these algorithms aren't actually owned by each individual brand.
Like, the price should be the price, you know? That's why everyone hates going car shopping, because it's like a game. Why does everything why does everything need to be a game? It's just like, have the price be the price and move on.
You have an account with. They're typically third-party providers, which means your data is being collected by one brand, sent to another company, and then compiled and shared with who knows how many companies. And now they all have access to what makes you most likely to purchase and how much you're willing to pay. But because all these brands use the same third-party providers, the algorithm also knows what every other brand is charging for the exact same thing. And in order to explain why that's a problem, we need to look at a company called RealPage. They're a software company that landlords could use for a variety of things, but specifically, it helped them determine the optimal price to rent their units out at. Similar to Dave and Willie in their grocery stores, landlords used to set their prices with a ballpark idea of what the market was willing to pay. They did this based on things they saw, heard, or observed around them. They weren't allowed to do this through agreements with one another because that would be collusion. But by using RealPage, landlords were getting pricing suggested to them. That pricing was calculated using all the confidential data that RealPage had access to, which
I mean, you got to keep up with the market and shit, but I don't know.
included all of the prices of the rental units in their area and the supply of units
I think it's normal to keep up with the market with supply and demand around your area.
available. Using this information, the algorithm learned that instead of constantly decreasing prices to compete with other landlords, it could just set a higher rate for everyone and give the renters no other options. In some cases, the rental rates run by RealPage software increased by over 25%.
But even renting. People rent because they want to have it be cheaper than a house, but it's getting fucking ridiculous.
In just 11 months. It's just like the conversation Dave and Willie had earlier about raising the price of apples to $5. If everyone raises their price, there's nowhere else to go and the customers have to pay it. But this brings us to the question, if it's an algorithm...
Yeah, but it can only go so high before, like, you can only raise shit so high to where people are be like, I literally cannot even afford this.
determining the prices, and the landlords or companies aren't actually discussing anything, is it collusion? This has been a hot topic as AI...
No, I would have said no. I mean, because even with like gas pumps, typically if you have let's say you have a long ass road and you have 5 gas stations, they're probably all going to be the same price. I wouldn't say that's collusion, but it's just like they know if they can't make their shit more expensive because no one's going to go there.
AI and algorithms have completely outpaced our current laws, but the DOJ in several states did sue RealPage over anti-competitive practices, and there's currently a proposed settlement between the DOJ and RealPage that would force them to stop offering software that recommends how much to charge tenants, which is a win, but there also has been similar cases related to hotels and casino pricing that have been dismissed in court due to lack of evidence. Which leaves us in this weird twilight zone, and is part of the reason this video was so hard to make. As AI continues to advance and we continue to integrate the digital world with the physical world, how far is this all going to go? This is an electronic shelf label. You've probably noticed them at stores like Best Buy or Target, and in
Yeah, I've been seeing them pop up a lot lately.
theory, it makes it easier for stores to reprice items or change shelf layouts. But they can also be changed remotely at any time, which means it won't just be Instacart changing the pricing in the app while you're shopping, but they could update it in real time depending on who's looking at it. Kroger recently partnered with Cooler Screens, who makes those digital freezer doors.
Okay, I feel like I know what direction this is going in. It's not going to be a thing of like, let's say there's 2 people, me and someone else, right? I'm going to buy a carton of milk for $5, and then the person that's sitting right next to me is going to have to pay $7. It's not like, I don't think it's like that, which I don't know if he's going in that direction, but like a lot of people have like said that, be like, oh, if you look a certain way or whatever, you're going to pay $7. Well, someone else is going to pay $5 for whatever.
We're starting to see that often have an ad on them. But the scary part is that they also have a facial detection feature in them, allowing them to change the ad on the screen depending on the age and gender of the person standing in front of them.
No way. That I feel like that would be illegal as fuck. No way they can do that and get away with it.
Kroger does deny that they're using the facial recognition technology, but we can all imagine what's possible if they decide to turn it on. Pretend you were to walk into a store tomorrow.
They would get lawsuits up the ass, bro. No fucking way that'll ever happen.
As soon as you walk through the door, your phone pings so the algorithm knows you're in the building and immediately has all of your shopping preferences saved. As you're walking through the produce aisle, the algorithm knows you've been watching TikToks about banana bread, so the price tag on the bananas instantly increases from
This is dystopian as fuck. This is tripping me out listening to this right now.
$159 to $199. As you continue walking through the store, you reach the freezer aisle where the camera on the door recognizes that you're with your 15-year-old nephew, and because the algorithm also knows you've been watching Netflix on your phones, an ad pops up for the new Stranger Things Eggo Waffles collab. Not only that, but the camera also sees your 8-year-old niece who always asks your Amazon Alexa to play the songs from Frozen. So it shows a buy one, get one half off of the waffles and a
Dude. Okay, I'm understand this, but there's no way. I can't see a world where any of that is legal.
Frozen inspired ice cream flavor. Neither
Nor do I think the technology is there enough to do this in the way he's claiming, and I think eventually it can get to that point. I'm more referring to the price changes. I can see the marketing of like, yeah, you're with your 15-year-old little brother or whatever, and he likes Stranger Things. And okay, it's going to recommend Stranger Things. But I think the direction of like prices are going to be changed because of the way you look, your age, whatever. No fucking way. Not that.
planning on getting when I walked in the door, but now they're in my cart and I'm spending more than I originally intended. This is just a small example of what's possible with this technology, and it's only getting smarter and better at predicting the maximum amount we are all willing to pay. If we continue down this path, there won't be a market price anymore, and competition will basically just disappear. We would reach a state of what economists call perfect price discrimination, meaning every person will see a price that is 1 cent below the maximum amount we would pay for an item. Some people would pay $4.99 for an apple, while others would pay $1.99. And all of this is almost unavoidable. Some economists say that surveillance pricing creates a more efficient market because the price reflects real-time supply and demand on a per-person basis, but it also eliminates the free market. If all the stores use the same algorithm, you'll never be able to shop around for a lower price or find any real deals. It'll all just be a facade. There have been some proposed regulations that would require online and in-person stores to label things more clearly and say that they were price band algorithm, but all those pricing decisions we talked about are meant to be hidden from us. So how would we know if we're actually getting taken advantage of, and would we be able to enforce these new regulations? Thankfully, groups like Consumer Reports are conducting studies and investigations to dig into
I can't see any of this going on without lawsuits.
but to a certain extent, we have no idea what's actually happening. And I don't know what the perfect solution is. Do we put a stop to surveillance pricing completely? If so, how would that be enforced?
I don't think it's that complicated. I think it's just like go back to regular ass price tags.
Do we set limits on price increases, or do we force every company to create their own internal pricing algorithm? I'm not really sure, but I'd be curious to hear your thoughts.
Anyways, if you like, subscribe, leave a comment, do the thing. Bye.
Got these voices in my head, I got some things will never change. Never change, at least I'll say it in my way. I'll tell this bitch to leave me alone, but she won't get up on my